Hi, Jayce.
Hi.
You guys made it through one of your most long road trips of the season. What was the most difficult part of that road trip, and how good does it feel to be back in San Diego?
First of all, it feels great to get back home and to get back to San Diego, and I know everybody excited to just get back in their beds and get some rest and get to this homestand. As far as the most difficult part, for me, it was certainly the Arizona trip for sure. Just going through the pocket of losing Kirby Yates, to FAM and Will miss some time in there. So I think that part was the roughest portion of it, but it was good to finish up on a winning track, and now just excited about tonight and being home, I guess.
For sure. A few players mentioned too, just how different it was with the protocols and everything. What was different about it? Can you kind of touch on how they did with that? And obviously they're still not going out and partying here in San Diego, but just how nice it is to kind of, like you said, just get back in your own bed after all that.
Yeah, it's I think one of the hardest things, or the guys have to adjust to. I think we've adjusted to. We know we're getting tested every other day. We know we're getting screened every day. I think something that we're still getting used to is finding ways for the guys to decompress and just kind of release after a game. We go back to our rooms. We're kind of locked in there. We've got, a room where the guys can go and get some food and get some drinks and things like that. But just kind of being quarantined in on the road and kind of stuck in your room for long periods of time. I think that's probably the hardest thing, where the guys are used to maybe hanging out in a room, gathering, playing video games, things like that, just to kind of decompress. So we've been very aware, and we're all learning. We're still educating ourselves, but just trying to limit as much as we're around other people, including members of the team.
The bullpen yesterday, we saw that you used a lot of guys in different roles. Even with the struggles, do you feel like you have a bullpen where you don't necessarily need to define roles? You can use guys in any situation depending on your need?
Yeah, we think we have that flexibility, and the guys are open-minded and willing to do that. So I do think it's a little bit kind of day-to-day. The roles are kind of changing with matchups, and then who's up, who's down, who needs a day off. So I do think that that's something that we'll probably be doing, going forward. And like last night, sometimes we're, just going to have to piece some things together. But when the guys step up and do their job, and that's the main thing. And they did a really good job yesterday. So hopefully they can get going.
And then last one from me here, Chris Paddock, he has the extra day of rest. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he had two bullpens, conversations with Larry. What do you want to see him do tonight that he's specifically been working on over the last 5 days?
I just want to see him get back to being himself and just driving his fastball to all four quadrants, commanding it, using that plus changeup, mixing in the curveball, and being the aggressor. So I think it starts, number one, with the fastball command, and if he has that, everything else should kind of fall into line.
Did you feel like that extra day was good for him, or was that something you'll kind of know, tonight and going forward?
I mean, going into it, it feels right. We won't know until the end of the night and after he's thrown his last pitch. But we feel confident today. One thing I forgot to say too, we had to make a roster move today, so I forgot to mention that at the beginning. We moved Oliveras, who's going to the taxi squad, and Baez will be in our bullpen tonight.
Thank you for that. So is that, did you kind of look at the arms that you had after the game last night, and what did you see, and why did you make that move?
Yeah, we had some guys kind of stretched out and a little bit not worried about getting enough innings today, but we just wanted to make sure if we ran into some situations, certainly an extra inning situation, that we would have some things covered.
Thank you, Jayce.
Thank you.
We'll go to AJ Castro.
Jayce, this stretch has been kind of unique. It's, I think, 17 games in 17 days, but you're going to have some off days coming up and then a few more in September. How does that change what your rotation could be? And have you considered, like, long-term more of a four-man kind of rotation as opposed to five?
We'll probably consider that. Right now, kind of our eyes are set on these next five, but knowing that we have some of those built-in off days for the final 30 games, we've definitely had some of those discussions, and we're completely open-minded, to that. So, it's these next two, and then, against Texas, and then, 3 here against Houston, and we need to finish this back end of the 17 strong, with the idea that we may have some pockets in the last 30 games where potentially we could go with a 4-man rotation, move somebody to the bullpen, and have some flexibility. So we'll tackle that once we get through these next 5.
Did Morejon, I mean, you said that he earned himself opportunity. Is he going to earn himself an opportunity to get stretched out a little longer, or is he bullpen, or do you not necessarily know that yet?
We don't know yet, but I think both continuing to stretch out as a starter, or go to the bullpen and help us out. I think both things are for sure on the table.
All right, next we'll go to Jared Sandler.
Hey, Jayce, I'm curious, your experience with Lance Lynn last year. I know it was your first year with him. What about him surprised you, impressed you, maybe you weren't expecting in that year you got to spend with him?
Well, he's going to be a tough matchup tonight. He's throwing the ball as good as anybody in the league right now. I think what's unique about him is his ability to throw his fastball, both the 4, the 2 seam. He'll cut it a little bit. He comes at you with the fastball. He's a big man. He's a big-time competitor. His fastball plays up. You don't really get a long peek at it. I think the other thing, too, being around him, it feels like watching him over the last year, he's one of the few guys that have the ability to get stronger as the game goes on. I don't know if he settles in, warms up, but as the game goes on, I've seen him throw his best ball towards the later portion of the game. So he's going to provide a lot of tough matchups for us tonight. But I feel good about our group preparing and see if we can get to some heaters tonight.
Awesome. Thanks, Jayce.
Next, we'll go to Jeff Sanders.
Hey, Jayce. Wondering if you could give us a kind of an update on what the reports on Baez were at the alternate site.
Yeah, he's been in a pretty good rhythm right now. He was actually supposed to throw today. He didn't do that just because of obviously the scenario that came up today. But his fastball command's gotten better. His changeup has still been a good pitch for him. And all the reports have been saying that he's been more consistent with his strike. So I hope he can continue that progression, that consistency, and carry that in and help us out, whether it's for the next couple days or for it's through the end of the year.
What was he stretched out to?
He can go up to 3 or 4 innings right now.
And then I want to ask you about Paddock. He's essentially was starting on 4 days rest for the first time. Is there a recalibration that has to happen, because he hadn't done that until this year, and maybe the work in between that needs to be recalibrated to make sure he's at his best on his day?
Yeah, I do think there's a little bit of an adjustment period, and early on he adjusted very well with it. And look, I don't know if that what was lingering to the last outing. I don't know that to be true or not. But I do think it's nice. Priority number one, let's take a step back. Let's get his fastball and let's get his mechanics and everything right. Larry and Fritz and the pitching staff feel really good where he's at. And, the true test will be tonight and moving forward with how he's commanding that fastball going forward.
Great, thank you.
All right, we got time for a couple more questions. We'll go to Ben Higgins.
Hey, Jayce, welcome home. You guys have been really good in the first game of a 3-game series, first 2 games of a 4-game series, and then after that, not as good. Is there anything you can point to as an underlying reason or anything you've seen why that's happened so far this year?
I honestly can't. I wish we had the answer for it, but we have been good in the opening of the series. I don't know why that is. I don't know why we haven't been winning Game 3 or Game 4 as often as we have Game 1. I don't have the answer because I feel like we're preparing the same. We're going over all the reports the same on Game 1 as we are in Game 3 or 4. Our routines are fairly similar. We have on this road trip we've made a couple adjustments to our pregame preparation, but it's just about being a little bit sharper, a little bit crisper, and not as long with some of the work just due to wear and tear on the field and the road trip. So hopefully making some of that adjustment, getting the guys off their feet a little bit. The goal is to maybe see a little bit more freshness, start game time and for the 9 innings.
Thanks, Jayce.
Next, we'll go to Judson.
Hey, Jayce, kind of a big picture question. You found yourself in the national conversation there for about 48 hours. What's that been like for you?
For me personally, it's been horrible because I never want any piece of information on me. To me, it's a player's game, and I want the focus to be on those guys. And the last thing we as a coaching staff, we don't want any of the light, the good, the bad, or whatever. I want the focus, and I truly mean this, to be on these players. And we believe we've got a special group of guys. We've got guys having great, good years, and we want that to be the story. So personally, I hate, the part that there's any attention on anything but the players.
Just one follow-up. How much of this thing do you think has to do with how much people love the way Fernando plays?
I think a ton, and that's just a credit to him. And if people are late to the party, recognizing, seeing that, I think everybody in this pocket, in this area knows, but maybe people on the East Coast, the Midwest, are getting maybe their first view of how special he is. And if that's the case, that's awesome. And obviously his play has been outstanding, and I've said it quite a few times. I think he's one of the guys, if he continues the path he's on and continues to grow and learn and be just the person that he is, both on and off the field, I think he's going to be, if not the face, the name to watch, he's going to be one of them that potentially continues to grow this game.
All right, we'll finish with a question from Kyle Glazer.
Hey, Jayce, forgive me if this was asked yesterday, but what do you see as Cal's role moving forward? He's done a couple different things for you this year.
I think he's capable of doing everything that we ask of him or the game asks of him. He can start, he can go long relief, he can go in the middle of the game short relief, and he can go impact innings either in the 7th, 8th, or close a game in the 9th. So with that being said, he's going to be available in the bullpen the next couple nights, and we'll kind of see where that goes. If he's not used or anything like that, then we'll talk about some other options. But his flexibility and his performance has been extremely valuable to us so far this year, and we believe it's going to be a big part of what we do down the stretch as well.
And then one quick follow-up. Michelle pitched very well out of the bullpen in his debut last year. Given some of the uncertainty you guys have had at the back end of the bullpen with Kirby being hurt, and the fact Michelle has big stuff, is he a guy you can see using at the end of games here, shortly?
He's got that type of stuff for sure. I would anticipate finding some landing spots for him, this year, maybe a little bit softer than the back end of a game, but we wouldn't rule anything out. But in an ideal world, we'd like to find some softer landing spots, get some success, get some confidence, and then look to slide back there.